quite cash flow. So like I mentioned, when Eric and I first started real estate investing, there was a lot of layoff in the tech industry. So for me, I was operating from fear. I wanted to have no debt. I wanted to pay off everything the first chance I get. But also dreaming, envisioning of a financial freedom where I didn't have to work anymore, that we would have enough rental income to replace our day jobs so that I could take care of my parents. I could, enjoy life, have more fun. So that's why we started doing cash flow investing. And we were heavy into the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad environment in terms of thinking about cash flow. So what we actually did was we actually went up and down throughout California looking for cash flow properties. We didn't find anything that we were comfortable with. So we went up to Oregon, we went out of state, and at the peak, we had real estate investments in 8 different states. In this case study, we actually sold our California Union City single-family home and invested into 3 single-family homes in New Mexico. They were all entry-level single-family homes, 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms. We got them with 0% or 10% down payment, and that program is no longer available today. And we bought them because they were all neutral or slightly positive cash flow with some potential upside. And remember, multiple states, we went up and down California, multiple states, and we thought that we chose really good locations for these cash flow investments. We're following the rules about looking for neutral or positive cash flow. And after about 15 years during COVID, we sold all 3 single-family homes. And in the table below, you'll see how much we spent over those 15 years on repairs and updates, how much our principal, our mortgage went down over those 15 years. They were paid by the tenants with their monthly rent. And then how much appreciation we gained after 15 years. So as you can see, on one property, we had appreciation of $1,400 after 15 years. And this is actually pretty typical. So in New Mexico, as we realized later, in other states as well, sometimes appreciation is very minimal. So when we realized how minimal it was, we decided during the first year of COVID to sell, because that was a chance where there were actually bidding wars on some of those properties where we could actually cash out a little bit more than the prior 14 years. So in the first year of COVID, 2020, we sold the first 2 properties. In the second year of COVID, there was another price spike or increase. So we were actually able to sell the 3rd single-family home in New Mexico for a lot higher than we expected. And we actually also sold it to our tenants, which we were very happy about. So altogether, after about 15 years, our total gain, including the mortgage pay down by our tenants through using their rent, was about $230,000, which works out to be about $15,000 a year. So I think if you look at purely cash flow, this was a pretty safe investment in the sense that there were no corrections. There was neutral cash flow, but we had to come out of pocket for all the renovations, the roof issues, the tenant turnovers, the repainting, and we were self-managing. So I think in that case, we followed the book, all the things that we needed to do to find and manage the rental properties for cash flow. And then I think by some standards, we would be considered as having done well in our cash flow investments. So the second case study, completely different direction, but it's important that we share this with you for people who are looking for cash flow. So as you talk to people about buying cash flow properties, if you ever talk to commercial real estate brokers, they will always talk triple net invest, first, where you're buying a Starbucks, you're buying a Walgreens, you're buying a Pet Boys, where you're becoming the landlord of these national credit tenants, national credit retailers, so that you enjoy their rental income to you, the landlord. So we were lucky enough, we thought, in buying this property in Texas, San Antonio, Texas. We bought it for $2.28 million. And all these metrics I'm showing you on the screen said that we were doing really well. These were the metrics that people were salivating over. And so we bought this Walgreens with 5 other tenants. We have multiple tenants paying our mortgages, and we had projected positive cash flow because our cap rate, our 8.45% cap rate is higher than the interest rate. So we were actually positive cash flow on not just our down payment, but also on the leveraged portion. And commercial real estate brokers will tell you that this is a quality real estate investment that they sell to widows and orphans, people who don't have much money and who cannot afford to lose any money. So we were really proud of this investment. And remember, Walgreens had a 50-year lease. We bought it when they had 37-year lease remaining. So we thought we were doing well. Well, okay, 20 years into this 50-year lease, Walgreens literally moved across the street. And our balloon payment on this loan was due 2 years later. So we actually was scrambling. We thought we were going to lose our shirt on this property that was considered a quality real estate cash flow investment. And luckily, we were able to sell the property shortly after Walgreens moved off for $1.4 million. And I say luckily because at the end, we were lucky that we were able to not lose all of our shirt on this property, but we actually but this is an example of where you think you may be investing for cash flow, but the market may change and the environment may change where you will not be able to control the outcome. And therefore, you need to understand what you're investing to manage your cash flow. So this is our Walgreens investment. And by the way, things were so bad on this that I actually put together a YouTube video about this, what happened to us at that time. And to my surprise, initially when I thought that Walgreens was a really safe investment, I didn't realize that not only was Walgreens not safe, but many of the big retailers have similar modus operandi, I guess, on how they treat their landlords. So this is important for people to think about as they look at cash flow investing. After 14, 15 years in real estate investing, and we'll go through some more case studies about this later, what are the things that we learned from investing for cash flow? Remember, we were investing cash flow in 7 or 8 different states. The first one, of course, is that residential properties are lower risk than commercial because there's a housing shortage nationwide, and then you can always lower your rent to find better tenants if you need to. And then secondly, for residential real estate investing, you can get loans that have no balloon payments. Whereas in commercial properties, I believe we Abundance as a hard money lender are one of the few lenders who are willing to do commercial real estate lending without balloon payments. And you don't want balloon payments because you cannot control the economic cycle. And if the cycle happens so that economy changes when your balloon payment is due, then you're host. Lesson number 2 is that you must have funds to repair and regularly refresh your properties. And that's true for single family homes. It's true if you want better tenants. And as you will see in our case study number 5 later, we actually owned 36-unit apartment building in Albuquerque. When we bought the property, it was a B-C+ property. And because we didn't realize that we needed to regularly refresh the property, by the time that we started doing the renovations 15 years later, we realized that we were actually slumlords. We turned the property from a B-C+ class property into I would say probably a D+ or a D property. And I was not proud of the type of property housing that we offered our tenants then. Lesson number 2 is that we must have funds, and this is funds out of pocket. The cash flow properties are not going to generate enough funds to pay for the major repairs and upgrades. And lesson number 3, and this is interesting for me because I did not realize this when we first started, is if you look at our case study number 1, 3 properties, neutral cash flow, we could not rely on those 3 properties to replace our day job, our paychecks, not unless we own them free and clear. And if we own them free and clear, we need 25 of them to replace the W-2 income that Eric and I were getting back then, because we need some of that money to pay taxes. We need some of that money to maintain the properties, to upgrade the properties, right? So 25 properties would be a management issue if we are, if they're scattered all across the country, if they're not in central locations where we have good property managers that we can count on. We have investor clients who own these rental properties, some rental properties free and clear, but I think even they would agree that sometimes it's not enough to replace their paychecks unless they're willing to downgrade their lifestyle. I hear other people say when they're investing for cash flow is that, over time, they want to upgrade their property so that when they retire, they're holding on to the best of the cash flow properties that have been renovated, that are in the great locations that they want to keep. before they go into retirement. So these are the cash flow lessons learned.